Good evening, everyone. I'm so happy to see you tonight. I hope you find this tonight's talk to be enjoyable and informative. We're going to talk about, of course, the plant-based lifestyle. Look at this photo. This is truly one of the happiest days in everyone's life if you're fortunate enough to have the experience. What is more beautiful than holding this newborn baby in your arms and you're filled with love, and it's just really the biggest moment in all of our lives. Great happiness. Let's go on. Now let's take a look at these three cutie pies. They're about to celebrate their first birthday. You know, in the 18th century, around the world, there was a large amount of infant mortality. Many children just did not live until their first birthday. But the parents knew if they did live till then, they had a better chance of surviving. And so here we're happy to see that these three have reached their first birthday, and this is probably where we started celebrating, making a big deal about first birthday parties. And here we are. The whole family's gotten together. The baby looks very happy. Everyone is cheering. They all sing happy birthday, and then, whoop! Look at this. This baby doesn't even look that happy about what's happened. The parents, unknowingly, have just given this baby his first taste of one of the most addictive food substances that we have. And that, of course, is white sugar. So the good news is that it's not your fault. If you have been fighting off sugar cravings your whole life, or if you're pre-diabetic, it's probably because you were introduced to sugar in the very first year of your life. In this article about suicide by sugar, it states that this substance is not illegal. It's available near playgrounds, schools, workplaces, homes, and in practically everything that we eat and drink. And once we do, we're hooked on it. This white substance of abuse is sugar. We used to only think it was associated with cavities and a little bit of a weight gain, but today we are told that it's linked to health conditions such as cancer, epilepsy, dementia, hypoglycemia, obesity, and more. And you know, I'm going to go back a second. You know, once that baby at 12 months of age has its first sugar, it really does modify its behavior. For example, that baby's going to know every time you go to a drive-in window at a bank, that teller will give that baby a lollipop. Or maybe you're in a department store with that little infant, and that child probably by now, by 2 or 3 years of age, knows if it throws a little bit of fit in a department store and starts screaming and crying, you'll probably calm that baby down by giving it a lollipop or a piece of candy. And now I'm going to reveal to you something that I've never told anyone on earth about. When I was 9 or 10 years of age, I want you to know that I used to steal a nickel or a dime from my mother's pocketbook so I could run down to the corner candy store and buy a candy bar. How is that any different from a person in their 20s going out and robbing a store so they can get their drug fix? There really is no difference. And this began again in infancy. But again, it's not only not your fault, it's not your parents' fault, because they didn't know any better. No one taught them this. They thought they were just doing something pleasant for their little child. How many of you have heard of a woman whose name is Ruth Reichel? Ruth Reichel is very well known in the restaurant industry. She's a former critic for the New York Times restaurants. She was the restaurant critic for the New York Times. And she's very well known and well liked in the food industry. She says, following World War II, the government decided the easiest way to fight communism was to have the cheapest, most abundant food in the world. And that has been our government's food policy since 1948. The unintended consequences have been devastating for farmers, for workers, and the environment. Yes, we may have the cheapest food compared to the rest of the world, but we're all sick from it. Well, look at this. You know, it was about 1960 when I met a friend in the street who said to me, Alice, you will never believe this. I was up in Buffalo, New York. This is now 1960. A friend and I went in our car and drove to a building that had what was a drive-in window. And we were able to buy a hamburger, a completely cooked, hamburger, roll and pickles for $1. And then we just drove away and ate it. And I went, I never heard of such a thing. We don't have that, in our neighborhood. 15 years later, this is America. We cannot imagine, I could not even imagine the number of fast food drive-in restaurants that we have today. But not when I was little. Roy Rogers bacon cheeseburgers. So I discovered these Roy Rogers bacon cheeseburgers in the late 1970s. And I thought that this was a food gift from heaven. It was the most delicious thing I had ever tasted. And I started to eat Roy Rogers bacon cheeseburgers 3 times a week, maybe 4 times a week. I wouldn't be surprised if I even ate them twice in one day. I couldn't get enough of these Roy Rogers bacon cheeseburgers. And I kept getting fatter and fatter and fatter till I said to myself, this must stop. Let's go on. We're going to shift the conversation a little bit to this. Also in the 1970s or 60s and 70s, I was, or even earlier, no, it was 1960s, I was maybe in my 20s. I smoked. We all smoked. My friends smoked. I wanted to be popular with my friends. We smoked cigarettes. We loved smoking cigarettes. Even when I was pregnant, I smoked cigarettes. And thank goodness I had 2 normal children. But everyone smoked all the time. It was a normal, accepted habit that we never even thought of it as a habit. It was an enjoyable part of our lifestyle. Let's go on. "25 years later, look at this. Our government decided we had too many people dying of lung cancer. And then all the signs came up, the campaigns came up. You see, it tells all the bad things that happen when you smoke cigarettes. Suddenly you were antisocial for smoking cigarettes. I finally stopped. It took me 5 hypnotists to help me stop smoking, but eventually I did. And most of my friends stopped smoking. However, it was not an easy thing to stop this addictive habit. We were able to do it, but it was not easy. And why am I showing you something regarding cigarettes? Because this shows a major lifestyle shift in 25 years in America, from being a smoking country to an anti-smoking country. So I just want to show you how lifestyles do shift and change. By the way, please don't worry about the cigarette companies that went out of business in America. What did they do? They simply went to China and Australia, where now lung cancer is soaring in those 2 countries. And that's why China, of course, has the highest amount of cancer in the world. So this American cigarette companies, Newport, Camels, Marlboros, they go to these countries far away and they say, hey, you want to be just like the Yanks, like the Americans? This is what the Americans smoke. So they're still making tons of money, just not in America. They go to the uneducated countries. Now, let's go on. And we're going to bring our talk, we're going to make it global. Let's talk about the top countries in the world by population. India, 1.5 billion people. Well, we always knew India was a big crowded country. China the same, almost 1.5 billion people. This I did not know. The United States is the 3rd most densely populated country in the world, with little more than 330 million people. Now, mind you, that's a much lower amount than India and China, but still, the United States is the 3rd most densely populated country in the world. Let's go on. Now let's look at the countries according to their wealth. Well, look at this. The United States is by far the wealthiest country in the world, far exceeding India and China. Let's go on. Okay, now let's look at life expectancy or longevity around the world. Well, if you look at the first column, 15 countries, and by the way, do you wonder how many countries there are in the world? Well, I'll tell you, there are, depending on who you ask, there's between 193 and 195 countries in the world. Now, the United States is not among the first 15 countries for life expectancy or longevity. The United States is not in the second column among the first 30 countries. The United States is not among the first 45 countries. I'm getting concerned. There we are, 48th. So there are 47 countries around the world that have longer longevity and life expectancy than America. Now I'm saying to myself, wait a minute. We're the wealthiest country in the world, yet we're not very high as far as longevity and health. When I was growing up, health trumps wealth. Health is more important than wealth. So we are beginning to see a problem here. Let's go on. Now we're going to go around the world or globally and look at the incidence of cancer. China has the largest amount of cancer cases in the world. Over 4 million, almost 5 million cases. Second is the United States, with a little more than 2 million cases every year of cancer. India is behind us third. Now remember, China has 4 times or more people than we have, yet we have half the amount of cancer that China has. I can't do the math, but let me tell you something that's very disproportionate and very worrisome. Let's go on. This reminds us again. The USA is the wealthiest country in the world, yet the life expectancy in the USA is ranked 48th. Cancer rates in the USA are 4 times higher than any other country in the world. Now I'm starting to really get angry. I'm saying to myself, if we have so much cancer here in America, who am I going to play cards with at the Long Branch Senior Center? If my friends are constantly going to doctor's visits because they have cancer, who am I going to go to shows with? I mean, the cancer rate is terrible, is horribly high. And you know, in Long Branch, we have a very large Portuguese community. And at the senior center, I hear people say to each other, she's got breast cancer. Well, my neighbor's husband, he's got prostate cancer. And we have a very high cancer rate in the Portuguese community. And I'm thinking about this and I'm saying to myself, it's the flan. Flan is a delicious little tartlet dessert that I'm sure we've all started eating when we were maybe 5 or 6 years old. And when you eat those little flan tarts, which are nothing but sugar, cream, and eggs, and you're eating them every year for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, I wonder if that's contributing to the cancer rate, the high cancer rate in the Portuguese community. Now remember, eggs and dairy are produced very differently in Portugal than they are in America. So they would think it's the most natural thing to continue eating these flan tarts. Oh, again, this is to remind us that health is more important than wealth. Let's go on. Okay, now we're going to talk about something that people who live in the Northeast never, I think, barely think about, and they certainly don't talk about it. And it's called Big Ag, which stands for Big Agriculture. In America, there are only 6 corporations that control the entire food supply for the entire United States. And now it's becoming even more globally also. Only 6 corporations. Those corporations influence global food productions and policies from seed to the time they get into your supermarket. And they are prioritizing profit over your health. The first name you see here is Monsanto. Monsanto is a name in the commercial industrial world that is absolutely hated. I hate it. Everyone hates it. Why? Because they develop these forever chemicals that are contributing to the destruction of farming and other industries in America. And they're in chemicals. They're very, very wealthy. What did Monsanto do? They went into Hawaii, that beautiful, beautiful state of Hawaii, where they have all the pineapple farms and all the macadamia nut farms. And they said to those small farmers, you're going to do farming Monsanto's way. And if you don't, we're not giving you the seeds, the fertilizer, and we're going to buy you out. And they intimidated the small farmers who wanted to do things the old natural way. Monsanto said, no, you do things our way, or you will not get your products distributed. I'm telling you, even now in the Midwest, Monsanto went into our Midwest and intimidated and put a lot of small and medium-sized farmers out of business. Everyone just hates Monsanto. So what does Monsanto do? Look at this. Monsanto no more. Agrochemical giants name dropped. They simply decided to change their name. They took their corporation they went to Germany, to a chemical company there, and they did what was, you can see here, a $63 billion deal. Now look, you and I have no concept of what $63 billion is. That's more money than most countries earn in a year or 2 years. That's very powerful. It wields a lot of power. So they go to a chemical company in Germany and they wisely pick someone whose name is Bayer. Do you remember this from America from the 1920s and 30s? It's a Bayer aspirin box. Bayer is a name that was associated with relief and health and taking away your headaches. Everyone loved Bayer aspirin. So they simply drop Monsanto's name, adopt the name Bayer. Do they change their practices? No. And I'm making you aware of this because most people just don't even know that this whole thing happened. And I want you to be aware that the Bayer name is simply Monsanto in disguise. Now, how does an individual fight back against this mega giant corporation who controls so much of everything in the food industry? You see where it says contains bioengineered food ingredients? When you see those names on a box, and you should be reading every box of every food product that you take off the shelves. When you see bioengineered food ingredients, you take that box, put it back on the shelf. Do not give them your dollar. When you see a food product that says high glucose or extra high fructose, take that product, put it back on the shelf. These are unhealthy ingredients, and you don't want to pay them for something that tastes what you think tastes good and is actually hurting your body. Okay, now let's come back to the States. And we're going to talk about eggs. For decades, you have been told to eat eggs every morning because they are a source of cheap protein. Do you know that the global egg industry is worth over $230 billion a year? That's a lot of eggs and a lot of money to be made from eggs. Let's go on. Well, remember when we talked about how these big corporations want things done on a grand scale and as efficiently as possible? So, in America, by the way, not in those other countries which do not have high cancer rates, but in America, they have these enormous barns. Each barn is about the size of a football field. And this is where they house and grow chickens and get their eggs. Let's go on. You see the letters CAFO? That stands for Certified Animal Feeding Operations. And here's another pen with the chickens. Chickens are in the avian, the bird family. Can you imagine being a bird and from birth never being allowed to fly? That would produce stress. When you feel stress, don't you sometimes get sick? Sick enough to sometimes want to get into bed? Well, a lot of these birds do get sick. And that's when we have what is called recalled eggs. And you know at least once a year you see an ad or somewhere that says 6 million eggs recalled for salmonella concern. Now again, let's go back to the photo on chickens. A normal chicken takes 3 years to go from infancy, breaking out, being born, to being an adult. 3 years. But no. That's too slow for the big 6 corporations. They want these chickens to grow in 3 months. So these chickens are fed an enormous amount of growth hormones, antibiotics, and steroids. Again, because of salmonella concerns and because they want these chickens to plump up real fast and to produce eggs real fast, they are given an enormous amount of chemicals. Now on this chart it says, in California and Massachusetts, they enacted cage-free laws. Corporate pledges to go cage-free by 2025. It has come. But there is little external verification, which means no one's watching, no one's inspecting, and there have really been no changes. The way the big 6 corporation runs things with their power and their money, things go on business as usual. Keep feeding the animals, again, growth hormones, steroids, and antibiotics. No one's going to tell them they can't and stop them. These are 2 cartons of eggs that you can buy in the supermarket that are actually verified, safe eggs for you to eat. They contain no chemicals and they were raised ethically. And you can buy them at any supermarket. So I hope you'll look for these. This man that you now see on the screen is a brilliant young man. I want you to go on YouTube and see how big companies trick you into buying factory eggs. This man is brilliant. I won't go into the details, but he'll tell you what to do. But he is a food scientist and very, very smart. For example, he'll show you how the big corporations feed the animals with substances that can change the color of their yolks. They can make the yolks appear larger. It's very, very worrisome. But just look this up on YouTube. WHO stands for the World Health Organization. And today, the World Health Organization warns you that the #1 problem in the world is antibiotic resistance. Here is an antibiotic chart. And it shows you how the animals, the cows, the chickens, and the pigs are given an enormous amount of growth hormones, antibiotics, and steroids to make them grow fat and fast and try to prevent communicable whatever disease among the animals. They eat them, and their chemicals go from the animal's mouth right into your mouth. And it affects our bodies over the years because you're just eating these every day, innocently eating these foods, not realizing that you're putting in everything that was put in these animals' mouths. Okay. The problem with antibiotic resistance has been so bad that people even have to alter their cancer treatments because their bodies are resistant to lesser treatments, and they have to go radical radiation therapy because their bodies are so resistant to antibiotics. And this screenshot is to show you that now even the Pillsbury Baking Company on their boxes of cake mix say you do not have to use eggs anymore to bake a cake. You can simply use a little snack jar of applesauce. Works fine. Or some chia seeds, or some two mashed bananas, or some mashed oatmeal. I promise you I've done it. The cakes come out amazingly just as light and beautiful as when you thought you had to use eggs. So please do not use eggs when baking if you can avoid it. This only occurred 10 days ago. 3,000 pounds of ground beef recalled in New Jersey. And look at the prices of these. And this ground beef is filled with beautiful, or makes it look beautiful, a lot of red dye. All this is being consumed by the consumer, along with the antibiotics, the growth hormones, and the steroids. It's all in this meat that you are eating. By the way, no one from Monsanto Bayer is telling the government what growth hormones, what antibodies, and what growth hormones are being fed to these chickens and cows. They're not divulging what they're giving these animals. And so, after all, you have to think, what are making these chickens, for example, grow from infancy to adulthood in just 3 months instead of 3 years? And cows, you know, normal cows in the field, if they were in the pasture, a cow lives to be 18 years. And they give about 6 gallons of milk a day. But the cows that are farmed inside barns only live about 3 years. And they are force pumped to give over 20 gallons of milk a day. And for those cows to do that, they must be given an enormous amount of chemicals. Again, no one's revealing to the government or the public or the health officials what those chemicals are. And those chemicals are going right from those animals into your mouth. Remember, America has 4 times the cancer rate of every other country in the world. U.S. food industry tops $9.5 trillion a year. This is to remind you folks, they do not care about your health and well-being. They only care about making enough money for their corporations. Oh, let's go back to looking at things globally again. Let's look around the world and see what the percentage of vegetarians are in different countries. Well, in the first chart here, we see India, Mexico, Brazil. We don't see the United States on the first chart. On the second chart of about another 8 or 9 or 10 countries, the United States is not listed as having any percentage of vegetarians that is worth recording. And this puzzled me at first because, you know, all you have to do is go to New York City, and on every street in Manhattan, there's a vegetarian or a vegan restaurant. It's all over New York, many vegetarians there. But not so many when you go to Connecticut, New Jersey, New Hampshire, South Carolina. We do not have enough vegetarians in this country to even register on the top of the list. But let's see who are vegetarians in our country. Well, here's a bunch of famous faces. We all know Woody Harrelson, Tobey Maguire, Alan Cummings. These men are all vegetarian or vegan. Let's go on. And look at these beautiful ladies. Here we have very famous stars, Jessica Chastain, Ariana Grande, and Miley Cyrus, one of my favorites. They are vegetarian or vegan. Let's go on. More famous faces. Well, you recognize these faces, and again, why am I showing you these celebrities who are vegan or vegetarian? It's because these are people in our country who are at the top of their game. They are the stars in the entertainment industry. These people earn a lot of money. They can afford to go down to a restaurant in Long Branch, like the one that sells steaks, where the steak is $98. That's not counting, of course, the side dishes, which are another $30. No, they can afford to buy anything they want, and they would as soon put acid down their throats than put a cow product or cow dairy into their bodies. These are smart people. These people in the industry are vegan or vegetarian. Let's go on. Last week in California, the Grammy Awards were held. And I said to myself, in this room of a couple of thousand celebrities, I wonder what they're eating for dinner. Now, of course, their dinner was made by Spago, a famous chef in California. And I took a close-up shot to show you. They could serve anything. Money is never an issue here. If you look at their dinner plates, they have some fruit. They may have a few pieces of cheese, but that cheese is not from American Wisconsin dairy. It's from either Italy or Switzerland, which of course is much safer dairy to eat. They have some crackers. There's no meat on their plates. There's not even fish, and I'm sure many people do eat fish. Okay, let's go on. Here are some very famous vegetarians in history. We have Albert Einstein, Gandhi, Leo Tolstoy, Tesla, Leonardo da Vinci. Now, of course, I don't know how they judged things a couple of hundred years back in their day, but anyway, the internet told me these people were vegetarians. Let's go on. Wow, look at these bodies. This is a very famous YouTube site of vegan bodybuilders. Look at their muscles and their body shape. They don't need cow dairy or cows to have muscles and strength and beautiful bodies the way that they have. Look at them. Let's go on. This is the same site. Now, the two people in the center are a husband and wife bodybuilding team. And I'm showing you them because if you go to their site on YouTube, which is Vegan Proteins, the woman and the man sometimes too will tell you wonderful, easy dinners and lunches to make that are pure health for your body and not difficult. And they are very, very careful about what they put in their mouths. Let's go on. Have any of you ever heard of Brian Johnson? This is a very interesting man. Brian Johnson in his 30s became one of these tech millionaires. So what did he do when he took all his millions and retired? He decided to turn himself into a longevity test. Now he's 47 years old. Brian Johnson spends $2 million a year on instruments and doctors and all sorts of experimental things to put in his body that will give him longevity. He claims today at age 47 that he has the body, a functioning body of an 18-year-old. Brian Johnson does not put any cow meat or cow dairy in his body. And he has some very funny things to talk about when he talks about McDonald's food and all that. It's a very entertaining YouTube site, and I hope you'll look him up. Let's go on. Oh, I forgot about this shot of Brian that we have. Here's Brian, showing Brian Johnson when he is age 12 and 30. You see, he looked like the average obese, pimply-faced American on a normal fast food diet, and then it shows how he slowly transformed himself over the years. Again, he's worth looking up. Let's go on. Oh, I wanted to talk for a moment about salt. You know, there's the regular table salt. They used to sell it for 10 cents a container. Now it's about $1 a container. Stop buying that salt. That salt is simply bleached ocean water, and then they add iodine to it. Your body today gets enough iodine if you eat bananas and spinach, some green vegetables. This habit started way back in the 1920s where there were a lot of thyroid problems. There aren't so many today. And if you have Himalayan pink salt, that contains 84 trace minerals that your body needs to keep all those organs in your bodies running smoothly. And Celtic salt contains 96 trace minerals to keep your body functioning well. So I would suggest, and sure, one of these salts costs $9 a bag, but the truth is it lasts you about 2 years, and it's a good investment. Let's go on. Now we have Barbara O'Neill. Well, this is a woman who really specializes in senior aging well. She also talks about Himalayan versus Celtic salt. Dr. Barbara O'Neill is from Australia. She is a wonderful site on YouTube. At one point, the American physicians tried to drive her out of our country. They were so threatened by her telling people, she would tell people, use the old-fashioned methods of making your body well. You don't have to do all the heavy drugs that you're doing. And I brought her up because I like her YouTube site, and I think that you will also. Next. Okay, so now we're going into what you can eat. We see lentils, of course. Everyone knows the bean area is very healthy. Quinoa, chickpeas, tuna. Black lentils, 18% protein, 16% fiber, nothing wrong with that. And most of these beans will take on the flavor or whatever you decide to flavor it with. So if you that day are in the mood for something Italian, you add a tomato sauce product with it on pasta. Or if you want something that's Mexican, you put on your favorite Mexican seasonings. Next. Oh, here we talk about edamame. I think it's edamame pronounced. Salmon. When you buy your salmon, by the way, please buy wild-caught salmon. You don't want farmed salmon, because at those salmon farms, all they're doing is throwing an enormous amount of antibiotics and growth hormones to make those salmon fish fatter. And you don't want that going into your body. You want wild-caught salmon. And of course, we have many shakes out here. This is one of them. Next. More products: black beans, almonds, tofu, Greek yogurt. Next. And here's a bunch of things. Of course, the whole nuts family, if you're not allergic to nuts. We have peanut butter showing how much proteins. And by the way, there's a handout that you've all received, which shows the protein and fiber content of the most popular nuts and foods and beans out there. Let's go on. Well Your World. This is a wonderful, wonderful YouTube site. You know, many of you are used to really eating a lot of restaurant food. Many of my friends at the senior center, 3 days a week, they go out to restaurants. Then the next 3 days, they eat the leftovers from the restaurants. And the 7th day, they may scramble some eggs. I'm here to tell you that, first of all, let's get back to doing a little cooking. And I'm not talking about anything that's complicated or 5 steps. This site here sells food products that I buy. They are reasonably priced. You can see right here on the screen, they compare their prices to Aldi's and Walmart. 90% of all their delicious lunches and dinners, all you do is you take a cup of their product, put it in a bowl with a cup of water, put it in the microwave, and you have a full, delicious meal. Everything I've bought from them, I've truly loved, and I hope you'll try them. And I do not get anything for giving a commercial to them. It's just a very good site. Let's go on. Are you prepared to fall in love? Here we have Javant. This guy, with his voice of silk, gives you the easiest ways to make delicious food than you could ever imagine. I make Javant's chocolate chip cookies. 3 ingredients. Just mix them up in a mixer or any kind of mixer, a bullet, anything. Spoon them out onto a cookie tray. So good and healthy. 3 ingredients of my last chocolate chip cookies were some cocoa, some chocolate chips, and a can of chickpeas. I'm sorry, we did add dates for sweetness. And when you cook real food, it's not like, you're used to making white flour cookies. You put them in a 350-degree oven for 10 to 12 minutes and the cookies are done. No, not when you're cooking real food, especially with high protein cookies. You put the cookies the same way on a cookie sheet into a 350-degree oven, but you must leave it in 20 to 25 minutes to make sure the outside of the cookies are crisp and the inside is still soft. But they are delicious. And these cookies will last in your refrigerator in a plastic bag for 1 to 2 months. They don't go bad or rancid like highly processed cookies from the supermarket. They'll stay a long time and they are good. And Javant is the man to tell you how to do it. Let's go on. Oh, I had another picture of Javant. I'm just crazy about this chef. He is so wonderful. And his famous tagline is, make your own. I will show you how to make your own. Let's go on. Yes, I'm really crazy about this man, obviously. Here's a third screenshot of him. Healthiest chocolate chip cookies. WFPB, that's wheat-free. They're oil-free, refined sugar-free. I forgot what the P stands for. Gluten-free. And all I can tell you is that everything he does is delicious. Please check him out if you want fast, easy vegetarian cooking. Let's go on. Now we have the broccoli mum. We don't say mom because she's from England. She's a mum. And she also, this dish you see a picture of here, we have tuna with pasta and broccoli. She may have some tofu in there. She also makes very, very easy cooking recipes. And I included her because I want you to also check out her website. Next, we have a woman here who's very good. Her site is called Cooking for Peanuts. She's very cost conscious about what all the food ingredients should cost, and her site is more or less dedicated to those people who are cancer survivors. And she'll suggest to you all the foods that have estrogen receptor beta. She knows what to tell you, anyone who's a cancer survivor. She'll give you the best advice of easy, good recipes, delicious recipes to try. Oh, now we have Trader Joe's. I want you to know we have a Trader Joe's in Shrewsbury, New Jersey. Now, again, I have no stock in Trader Joe's, but I'm bringing them up because they have a very, very large product list, international product list of dairy and ready-to-eat meals that you just have to put in the microwave or the toaster oven or the air fryer, and you will have a meal in 10-15 minutes. And they have a really, really good selection. You're much better off going there to buy your plant-based cheeses and plant-based yogurt than going to ShopRite, which is actually higher priced. Let's go on. Here's an example of a dinner that I prepared. We have a bag of lentil quinoa rice mix. You take this bag, you snip off the corner, you put that bag in the microwave for 1.5 minutes, 90 seconds. Take it out, put in the next bag, which is green beans and cauliflower. Snip the corner of the bag, put it in the microwave, another 90 seconds. Take the 2 bags out, put them in a nice soup bowl, and you have a delicious, satisfying, warm lunch or dinner for a cold winter day. Let's go on. Oh, I want you to see my favorite waffles and pancakes. Also extremely easy to make. You simply take 1 cup of plant-based milk, 3/4 of a cup of any one of these products. They're all the same. And by the way, you see, it's 15 to 19 grams of protein. Just combine the two and take out that waffle maker that's in the back of your closet that you haven't used for a few years, and in 10 minutes you have yourself waffles. On Sunday, I make up the mix. I make myself 5 or 6 waffles, which I then put in the refrigerator, and I keep them in the refrigerator all week just to have a breakfast or lunch that I can grab without cooking before I go. And they're high protein and they're healthy and they are delicious. Sometimes I take these waffles and I put peanut butter and jelly on them, and I take them out and I pack it up for lunch. So it's a good product. Next. 2-ingredient chickpeas waffles. Well, this is one of the latest trends that a young person thought of. Very smart. Instead of using the pancake or waffle mix, they opened up a can of chickpeas. They added some flour to it. They'll tell you what the recipe is, but you see it says 2-ingredient waffles. And look at this. They're making sandwiches using the waffles instead of bread. And these waffles are protein waffles because they're made with a high protein waffle mix, or they're made with the chickpea bean mix. And isn't that clever? And I know it's delicious. So this is one of the new recipe ideas that's very hot out there now. Let's go on. Oh, here's another one. They took those same chickpea waffles and they made mini pizzas out of them. Can you imagine how smart and how simple? Just take these little pizzas, put them in the toaster oven, and you got, again, pretty easy lunch or dinner, healthy, and I'm sure it's satisfying. Oh, okay, so now we're going to talk about some ready-made food that all you have to do is heat up. These are all plant-based products, and the reason I brought them up over here is because these are from Walmart, and you see the prices. They're between $5 and $6, and any one of these packages are at least 2 meals. So at $3 a meal, it's very cost effective. And these products, again, all you have to do is add a roll and your favorite condiments, and you have yourself a lunch or dinner. This is more. Okay, now we're getting more into the cheese world, because the most craved food item people worry about not being able to eat is cheese. Well, now all the companies are coming out with manufactured plant-based cheese. You see, even Philadelphia Cream Cheese Company, right here, can you imagine? And I bought it and I had it with my bagel. It tastes exactly like regular cream cheese. Doesn't come from a cow that's giving, that has growth hormones and steroids in it. These are plant-based cheeses that are clean. And you see that grilled cheese sandwich? I like a grilled cheese sandwich once a week, and I enjoy it very much. Very easy to do again. A 5-minute meal. Next. Oh, here are more samples of grated cheese that you would do for your homemade pizzas. I just want you to know that I take any one of these bags and I go to Scala's pizzeria, or any local pizzeria, the one in Long Branch, the one in West Long Branch, Scalpetti's. All I do is I hand them the bag. You only need a half a bag, actually, for a medium-sized pizza. I hand them the bag and I say to them, would you just put this cheese on instead of yours, and let me have one of your pizzas? And yes, I pay the regular amount of money, but it's worth it for me to have something with the ingredients that I know are good for my body. And these are, any one of these cheeses are just fine and delicious. And now, by the way, I am actually making my own cheeses, which is so surprisingly easy. I don't know why I didn't start doing it earlier. And if you would like to know how to do one of these cheeses, simply ask the head of the Senior Center for a cooking class, and I would be very happy to show you. Let's go on. Oh, this is a good tip. Here we have the Daiya cream cheese. Whenever I get one of these plant-based products, I don't just put it back in the refrigerator in its original container. I put it inside a baggie, whether it's a sandwich baggie or a larger quart-size baggie. This cheese has stayed in my refrigerator 1 to 2 months. It doesn't get moldy. It doesn't go bad. I don't know why, but I think it's the double wrapping. And so now whenever I buy any bag of plant-based cheese, because I don't like wasting money, I put that extra little wrapping on it, and it keeps it like forever in the fridge. So I hope you'll try that. Next. Oh, well, who doesn't like a little ice cream at night before they go to sleep? I was raised that way. A little ice cream, sweet dreams, all that nonsense. Anyway, I want you to try the non-dairy Cherry Garcia by Ben & Jerry's. It is absolutely my favorite. This Ben & Jerry's ice cream has everything. Little chocolate chips, all sorts of delicious things in it. Totally non-dairy. I want you to try it. You see the price here, it says $4.97. This particular product is always on sale at ShopRite for less than $4. And each I don't know if they call this a pint or a quart. But so you get at least 2 servings at it, so it's about $2 a serving. And it's really delicious, and it's non-dairy, and you would never believe it. My favorite. Oh, now we have a selection of all the chicken products that are on the market. Now it says here, 10 people tricked with realistic vegan chicken. I'm telling you, first of all, the first or second time you try these products, again, you put them in the air fryer or you put them in the microwave or you fry them in oil in your pan. Are you going to know it's not the same as your real chicken that you're used to? Of course you will. But you know something? After the second time, the third time you try it, you say, this isn't so bad. And then you see how you feel after you've eaten it. You feel full and satisfied, but you don't feel bloated. You don't feel like it weighs you down. I hope you'll try it. It's a very wonderful alternative, whoever thought up how to make these products. And these are all a lot healthier and a lot less expensive than going to the Chick-fil-A on the highway. Let's go on. Oh, I wanted you to see my favorite meatballs. There are a lot of plant-based meatballs out in the freezer cases nowadays, but Gardein meatballs, now they don't make the big meatballs like your grandma. They make the small ones, and I like small meatballs. They're very good on, for example, meatball sandwiches with tomato sauce. Gardein makes the best meatballs. I just love them, and I know you will love them too. Let's go on. Oh, so these are packages. They look like packages of tofu, but they're not. They're packages of an imitation chicken product. And you could take these and you pull them apart with your hands and you put them with some mushroom gravy or in some stew or in some vegetable soup or in your pasta sauce, and you have a chicken product that it simulates chicken. Oh, these are some products I happen to have in my house, and I thought I would show you how easy it was to put a meal together. I just open any one of these cans of soups. Sometimes I add Heinz beans, which I really like. You know, just a can of Heinz beans and some plant hot dogs. To me, it's great lunch or dinner. It's delicious. Here, we combine it with, again, the basmati rice, which takes all of 90 seconds. You put these together with the soup. It's a delicious, satisfying meal. Now we have a couple that are relatively new to YouTube, but I would say they're probably in their late 60s, and they talk about how their daughter saved our lives. Well, I guess, these people listen to their children who were plant-based, and they suddenly became plant-based and went gung-ho, and they're very amusing. It's nice to watch them on YouTube, and they also come up with a lot of good recipe ideas that are very, very simple. Oh, here we have a chart which I included in the handout that you got today, and it says don't bring white sugar into your house. It lists all the other sweet alternatives which once you get in the habit of using, you will really get off of white sugar. Just be careful to read the labels to make sure there's not that addictive white sugar in them. Raw honey. Raw honey, we have, by the way, our own beekeeper right in Long Branch. Her name is Carol Wright. She's in charge of the Long Branch Community Garden, and she sells the honey that her bees make in Long Branch, and it truly is the healthiest thing for you if you are allergic. And you can look up Carol Wright's number. She's a local person and listed. And you see, raw honey has iron, zinc, potassium, calcium, and niacin. Honey's a good choice. Next. Let's see, this looks pretty much, this is the calorie count on all those products. Okay, you also have that in your handout. Let's go on. All right, now we're almost near the end. Homework assignment. What whole food, plant-based foods have you been eating this week? How did those foods make you feel? What did you notice about your hunger, fullness, and energy? I hope you'll try that this week. Try a little bit. Everyone dips their toe in the water. Start slowly, maybe one meal a day or one day a week. You'll do plant-based products. I want you to know that I do have a YouTube site. It's called Long Branch Alice, and you can check that out. Has some ideas on it. And lastly, please remember these words. What you put on your plate determines your fate. Thank you for joining me this evening for this discussion, and I hope you enjoyed it.